When my husband, Tom, and I brought our newborn daughter, Lily, home from the hospital, we were a tangle of exhaustion and bliss. Our modest suburban house felt like a cocoon, a single-story retreat with a small, neatly trimmed lawn, a nursery we'd painted soft yellow over months of anticipation, and a rocking chair by the window where I'd nurse her under the gentle glow of a moon-shaped nightlight. We'd invested in a high-end baby monitor, complete with video and two-way audio, a lifeline for first-time parents like us. It sat proudly on the dresser in her nursery, its camera angled over her crib, the green power light blinking softly in the dark as it beamed her every breath to the handheld screen I kept close, on the kitchen counter while I made coffee, on the couch while I folded laundry, beside my pillow at night. Those first weeks were a blur of diapers, feedings, and sleepless nights, but we found our footing. I'd watch her tiny chest rise and fall on the monitor, listening to her gentle coos through the speaker, a soothing thread woven into the chaos of new parenthood. It was my tether to her, a comfort that eased the anxiety of leaving her alone in that little room. But about a month in, something shifted, cracking that fragile peace. It was 2 a.m., and I was in the kitchen, warming a bottle, the monitor propped beside me, its screen casting a faint glow across the tiled counter. Lily's soft coos crackled through the speaker, a sound I'd grown to love, until they were pierced by a faint whisper. It wasn't her, it was deeper, rougher, unmistakably male, murmuring something I couldn't make out, like words smothered by a thick wall or spoken from a distance. I froze, the bottle trembling in my hand, milk sloshing onto the counter as I stared at the screen. Lily was still asleep, her little fists curled near her face, the nursery unchanged, yellow walls bathed in dim light, stuffed animals lined up on the shelf, the window locked tight against the night. I turned up the volume, my ears straining, but the whisper faded into static, leaving only her breaths. My heart slammed against my ribs as I tried to rationalize it, maybe Tom muttering in his sleep, though he was upstairs in our bed, or a glitch picking up some stray signal from the neighborhood. I set the bottle down, my palms clammy, and tiptoed to the nursery, pushing the door open with a soft creak that seemed deafening in the silence. Everything was as it should be, the curtains hung still, her blanket tucked around her tiny form, the room quiet except for the monitor's faint hum. I stood over her crib, watching her sleep, my breath shallow, trying to shake the chill that had burrowed into my bones. As I turned to leave, it came again, a low, raspy sh crackling through the speaker, though the screen showed nothing but my peaceful baby. I stumbled back, clutching the doorframe, my mind racing. Was I imagining it? Exhaustion twisting reality. I didn't sleep that night, sitting by her crib with a kitchen knife gripped in my lap, listening for anything else, but the house stayed quiet, too quiet, the silence pressing against me like a suffocating blanket. The whispers didn't stop, they became a sinister rhythm, seeping into the monitor's audio like a creeping shadow. They came at random hours, always when the world outside was still, sometimes a single word like, quiet, there, or, mine, other times a long, guttural hum that made my skin crawl with dread. I'd jolt awake, clutching the monitor in bed, staring at Lily's serene face on the screen, waiting for something to move, something to explain the voice that wasn't hers or ours. Tom was dismissive, he'd listen when I begged, his head tilted toward the speaker, but he never heard it. It's interference, he'd say, yawning. A neighbor's radio or some tech glitch. I wanted to believe him, desperately, but the words felt too intentional, too close to be random noise. I started keeping a notebook, scribbling what I heard in the dark, 2:14 a.m., good girl, 3:07 a.m., a dry chuckle, 4:22 a.m., closer. One night, the screen flickered, jumping between Lily's crib and a grainy black void before snapping back. I ran to her room, heart pounding, but she was fine, untouched, the camera steady. I unplugged the monitor, desperate for silence, and moved her bassinet to our bedroom. The quiet lasted until dawn, when I found the monitor plugged back in, glowing, showing her empty crib. Tom swore he hadn't touched it, his face pale as he yanked the cord out again. We kept her with us, but the whispers followed, louder, hissing from the unplugged device, "She's mine." I saw a shadow on the screen, vague, humanoid, leaning over the empty crib, before it vanished. I screamed, waking Tom, but he saw nothing. An electrician found no faults, yet the footsteps started, slow, heavy, creaking down the hall toward the nursery. The locked door's handle turned one night, just an inch, then stopped. Muddy prints appeared on the porch, bare feet, too big for us, leading nowhere. The breaking point came when I bathed Lily, the monitor showing us in real time from a hidden ceiling lens. Laughter erupted as I fled, calling 911. Police found cameras wired through the walls, feeding to an attic recorder with tapes of us, living, sleeping, watched. A photo of Lily, labeled "mine," sat among dirt and scratches in the crawlspace. The woods behind our house held an abandoned shed, warm, with a knife, but no one. We moved, but I still hear whispers in electronics, checking ceilings nightly for unseen eyes. After my divorce, I moved with my 4-year-old son, Ethan, to a quiet town, a fresh start in a modest clapboard house near a park where he could play. Ethan was shy, big brown eyes, curly hair, always clinging to my leg around strangers. The park was our sanctuary, swings creaking in the breeze, slides glinting in the sun, a sandbox where he'd dig for hours, his little hands shaping mountains of dirt. One crisp fall day, leaves crunching underfoot and the air thick with wood smoke, I noticed a boy watching us. He was Ethan's age, pale with dark hair, standing by the jungle gym, staring with an intensity that prickled my skin. Ethan didn't notice, engrossed in his sandcastle, but the boy edged closer, silent, hands stuffed in his pockets. I smiled, expecting a parent nearby, but the park was empty save for us and a distant jogger. "Hi, buddy," I said, kneeling to his level. "Where's your mom or dad?" He didn't speak, just tilted his head, his lips curling into a lopsided smile that didn't reach his eyes, then bolted into the trees lining the park. I scanned the area, unease settling in my gut, but he was gone, swallowed by the shadows. That night, Ethan woke screaming from a nightmare, sobbing about the boy with no eyes. I held him, stroking his hair, dismissing it as imagination, but my mind flashed to that pale face, that odd smile. The next day, he was back, same spot by the jungle gym, same unblinking stare. I asked Ethan if he knew him, he shook his head, gripping my hand tighter. By the third day, I was on edge, watching the boy linger at the park's edge, never playing, just staring. I decided to find his parents, but when I approached, he ran again, vanishing into the woods. That evening, as I tucked Ethan in, he whispered, he said he's coming home with us. My heart stuttered. "Who, sweetie?" "The boy," he said, eyes wide with fear. "He said he lives here too." I forced a smile, tucking the blanket tighter, but a cold dread coiled in my chest, picturing that silent figure following us home. Ethan's words haunted me, but I told myself it was a child's fantasy, an imaginary friend born from a lonely move. Still, I locked the doors that night, double-checked the windows, and slept with my phone under my pillow. At 3 a.m., I woke to footsteps, soft, pattering down the hall like bare feet on wood. Ethan's room was next to mine, so I grabbed a flashlight, my breath shallow, and crept out. The hall was empty, but his door was ajar, I'd closed it after bedtime. He was asleep, curled under his blanket, but the air felt wrong, cold, heavy, like someone had just slipped away. I searched the house, every closet, under every bed, finding only a muddy smudge on the living room floor, a child's footprint too small for my boots. I scrubbed it away, hands trembling, and didn't sleep again. The next day, Ethan was quiet, drawing in the kitchen, a stick figure with no eyes beside our house. "Who's this?" I asked, voice tight. "Him," he said flatly. "He sleeps in my room." I nodded, forcing calm, but my throat closed up. That night, I recorded audio in his room. At dawn, I listened, silence, then at 4:12 a.m., a voice, not Ethan's, whispering, "I'm home now," followed by a sharp giggle that made my skin crawl. I showed my sister, she paled, urging me to leave, but I couldn't afford it yet. Toys started moving, stacked into eerie towers overnight, his drawings multiplied, all of that eyeless boy, the closet door opened once, a cold draft spilling out. I slept on his floor, but footsteps circled us, stopping just out of reach. One night, Ethan sat up, pointing at the corner. "He's here," he whispered. It was empty, but the air buzzed, and I smelled wet earth and decay. I took him to my parents, researched the house, and found a 1987 article, Jacob, 5, missing from our address, lost in the park woods, presumed dead. His photo matched the boy, pale, dark-haired, lopsided smile. Back home, cameras caught him in Ethan's doorway, no eyes, just hollows, staring for hours. Footsteps climbed the stairs, a voice from the walls hissed, "This is my home." I fled, a priest's blessing failed, and we moved. The next tenant left after her son saw a boy with no eyes. Ethan still draws him, and I fear Jacob followed us, claiming us as his own. When we moved into the old Victorian house with our 6-year-old twins, Mia and Max, it felt like a bargain too good to pass up, a 3-story fixer-upper with stained glass windows casting rainbow patterns on the creaky hardwood floors, steep staircases that groaned underfoot, and an attic we dreamed of turning into a playroom for the kids. The house had a past, whispers of previous owners who'd left abruptly, but the price was right, and we were eager to make it our own, to fill it with laughter and new memories after years in a cramped apartment. The twins adored it from the start, racing through the empty rooms, their footsteps echoing off bare walls as they played hide-and-seek in the sprawling, labyrinthine layout. The first week was a whirlwind of chaos, unpacking endless boxes, slapping fresh paint on peeling walls, tripping over furniture we hadn't yet placed, but Mia and Max adapted fast, their energy boundless as they explored every nook and cranny. One dreary, rain-soaked afternoon, as the sky outside turned a bruised gray and water drummed against the roof, I heard their giggles grow louder, more excited, drifting from upstairs. I climbed to the second floor, calling their names, my voice swallowed by the house's cavernous silence, and found them clustered at the attic door, a heavy, oak-paneled thing I'd locked with a deadbolt to keep them safe until we could clear the space. "How'd you get this open?" I asked, frowning, my hands on my hips as I studied their flushed, grinning faces. Mia, her pigtails damp from the humid air, held up a rusted key, its edges jagged and tarnished, glinting faintly in the dim hallway light. "Found it in the garden," she chirped, bouncing on her toes. Max, clutching her hand, added with wide-eyed enthusiasm, "There's a doll up there." We saw it. My stomach gave a small twist, something about that key felt off, like it didn't belong, but I brushed it aside, chalking it up to the house's quirks. I took the key from Mia, its cold metal biting into my palm, and followed them up the narrow, twisting attic stairs, each step creaking ominously under my weight. The attic was a dusty mausoleum of forgotten things, cobwebs draped like curtains over broken chairs, a cracked mirror reflecting slivers of gray light filtering through a grimy skylight, a battered trunk shoved into the far corner beneath a slanted beam. The air was thick, musty, carrying the faint scent of mildew and something sharper, almost metallic. The twins darted ahead, tugging at the trunk's lid until it groaned open, revealing a porcelain doll nestled among moth-eaten fabric scraps. Its face was chipped, a jagged crack running from its left eye to its jaw, giving it a lopsided, eerie expression. Its blue glass eyes stared blankly ahead, unblinking, and its blonde curls were matted with age, tangled into clumps. The doll's right arm was missing, ending in a jagged stump, and its faded dress, once white, now yellowed, bore brown stains in irregular patches, like spilled tea or something darker. Mia squealed with delight, clapping her hands, while Max reached in to lift it out, his small fingers brushing its cold surface. "Can we keep it?" they begged in unison, their voices overlapping as they hugged the doll between them, already naming it Lucy. I hesitated, a shiver crawling up my spine as I stared at those unseeing eyes, but their pleading faces wore me down. "Fine," I said, forcing a smile, "but it stays in your room." We carried it downstairs, its weight heavier than I'd expected, an odd, lifeless heft that made my arms ache. That night, as I tucked them into their shared bedroom, the doll propped on their dresser between their twin beds, Mia whispered sleepily, "Lucy likes us." I smiled, ruffling her hair, but something about the doll's glassy stare, now catching the moonlight streaming through the window, made my skin prickle. I turned it to face the wall, telling myself it was just a toy, a harmless relic of the house's past, but as I left the room and closed the door, I swore I heard a faint creak, like porcelain shifting on wood, though when I peeked back in, nothing had moved. The twins slept soundly, their breathing soft and even, but I lay awake downstairs, the sound replaying in my mind, a nagging whisper of unease I couldn't silence. Lucy became an obsession, a dark thread weaving through our days that I couldn't untangle. The twins dragged her everywhere, propping her at the breakfast table as I poured cereal, clutching her in the bathtub as water darkened her stained dress, even hauling her outside to play, in the muddy backyard, where they'd sit her in the grass and whisper secrets I couldn't hear. At first, it was endearing, kids and their toys, their vivid imaginations spinning stories, but it quickly turned strange, then unsettling. One morning, as I shuffled into the kitchen, bleary-eyed from a restless night, I found Lucy sitting at the table, a plate of cold toast set before her as if she'd been served breakfast alongside us. The twins weren't even awake yet, their bedroom door was still closed upstairs. "Who did this?" I demanded when they stumbled down later, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Max shrugged, his voice casual, "She was hungry." Mia nodded solemnly, adding, "Lucy doesn't like being left out." A chill snaked down my spine, but I laughed it off, moving the doll back to their room, though its cold porcelain felt heavier each time I touched it. That night, I woke to singing, a high, lilting tune drifting from their room, faint but clear, like a lullaby sung off-key. My heart thudded as I crept upstairs, the floorboards creaking under my bare feet. The twins were asleep, sprawled across their beds, but Lucy sat between them, her head turned toward me, though I'd left her facing the wall. I grabbed her, my hands trembling, and set her back on the dresser, locking their door as I left. The singing stopped, but the next day, they were furious, their small faces twisted with anger I'd never seen before. "Lucy doesn't like being alone," Mia snapped, her eyes narrowed to slits. "She told us," Max added, clutching the doll tighter. Things escalated, footsteps pattered across the attic at night, though no one was up there. Lucy appeared in odd places, the bathtub, my bed, once balanced precariously on the staircase railing, her chipped face grinning down at me as I climbed. I'd put her back in their room, lock the door, but she'd be elsewhere by morning. One night, I woke to the twins giggling in their sleep, a sound that should have been sweet but felt wrong, too sharp, too synchronized. I checked on them, they were out cold, but Lucy's head was turned again, her blue eyes catching the moonlight like twin beacons. I started sleeping with a bat by my bed, the house's silence growing oppressive, punctuated by creaks and whispers I couldn't place. Desperate, I researched the house's history, digging through online archives late into the night while the twins slept upstairs with their precious doll. What I found turned my blood to ice. In 1923, a family had lived here, a mother, a father, and their daughter, Lucy, who died at 6 after a fall down the attic stairs. The parents, distraught, had kept her room untouched, even commissioning a doll in her likeness, porcelain, blonde curls, blue eyes, to keep her spirit close. The mother's journal, excerpted in an old article, described hearing footsteps, singing, and seeing the doll move, claiming Lucy's spirit was trapped in it. They'd fled the house, leaving the doll behind, and it vanished from records, until now. The next night, I planned to destroy it, but as I grabbed Lucy from the dresser, the twins woke screaming, "Don't hurt her." The lights flickered, the air buzzed, and a child's voice, not theirs, hissed from the walls, "She's mine." I dropped the doll, its head cracking further, and ran with the twins downstairs. The footsteps followed, heavy, deliberate, thudding from the attic to the stairs. I locked us in the car, driving to a motel as they sobbed for Lucy. The landlord later found the doll back in the attic trunk, arm reattached, though I'd left it broken. We moved, but Mia still hums that lullaby sometimes, and I dread the day I hear those footsteps again, knowing Lucy might not let us go.